Hi, welcome to StockInvest.us podcast for week 3, which starts with a holiday today. There will be no trading in the United States. It will be a shortened trading week. What can we expect for the week ahead of us? Well, I will tell you shortly in the market section. And last week was such a good week for me. I was spot on several of the analyses, but even more important, the trading tips went very well. I was able to close a lot of them with very good profit. Just to mention Zoom, almost 12% profit. Baba, for those who remember, that was put in week 50, was closed at 11.83, and it just continues. It was indeed a very good week. But we will also get back to that in the section where we discuss the trading tips for the week ahead of us. As usual, we will go through the major events for the week. What can we expect? What should we look out for? How can this influence the week? In all, I hope to cut this podcast around 35-40 minutes, and I hope it will be good use of your time. End goal, as usual, we will try to increase your gain, reduce your losses, and help you in the trading. As usual, we have to start with a disclaimer, and after that, we go straight to the market section.
Welcome to StockInvest.us podcast. We remind you that trading involves a high risk of losing money, and that you should speak with a financial advisor before buying or selling any securities. You should not base your investment decision upon StockInvest.us. By using the information provided, you agree and are held liable for your own investment decisions.
Last week became yet another red week as we expected, but it was not all that bad. Nasdaq ending 14,894 points is only down 0.27% for the week overall. It was a jumpy week, it was some up and down. Dow Jones did a little bit worse, ending down almost 1% last week to 35,912 points. And that brings us to this week. What can we expect? We know that for the last 5 weeks, Nasdaq been falling 4 out of 5 weeks. It was only week 51, which was very good. Nasdaq was up above 3% in week 51, but been falling all other week. And as we know, week 1 started very bad with a fall more than minus 4.5%. Is it time to get back into the green? Well, we will get to the charts shortly, and I can tell you already, Nasdaq is now oversold on the relative strength index. What does that mean? We will get back when we get into the technical part. First, we will just have a quick run through some fundamental things. And as I told you last week, you had to pay attention to the Wednesday numbers, where the inflation numbers came in, because they were very defining for the week and what the day Wednesday actually became. What is it this week? Well, this week there is really no big news as I see it coming out. Thursday, you will have the oil inventory numbers. There will be the jobless claims numbers, but none of these are expected to be market changers affecting the markets in any real direction. Oil is already high. It's trading at $84, up $5 from last week. It's trading a bit higher than I thought it should. I expected oil at this time around $60 to $70, the $65-$75 range. But it's still trading high, and everything indicates that it might continue this way. Good for Norwegian oil stocks and all other oil stocks, of course. And the other thing is, which we follow, is gold. Gold lifted $28 last week at 1,822 as we speak. But I am, as I said before, very, very certain that gold will just continue to rise, and that we will see gold up at 2,500 during 2022. The reason for me is very simple. Inflation is here and is extremely strong. Last Wednesday's numbers showed that inflation came in above 7%. And it will just get harder. It will get tougher as we speak. There is a logistic issue in China, where China closed down one of the biggest ports, and this is going to rumble through all the world. This butterfly effect, because there will be lack of different items in supply chains, etc. It will not start immediately. It might be a few weeks before we see it, but this will just push prices even further up as the shelves get more empty, less products, higher prices. It's that kind of combination. So as I see it, inflation will just continue upwards. The 10-year treasury yield, which measure the inflation expectations, stayed even at 177 last week, but it's the highest we see in this treasury yield in months after months. And my bet is that it will just continue to go upwards, and during the week there will also be some mortgages number. There will be several countries outside the United States. Norway, for instance, will have new interest numbers, and I guess you will just see that central banks push interest rates up, trying to fight the evil of inflation. So inflation is here to stay. It will affect the markets. I told you this over and over again. It's just a repetition. For the week, as such, there is, as I said, no really big things, as I see it, that could push the market in either direction. There is this wild card with Russia building up their forces against the Ukrainian border. The argumentation gets just harder and harder on both sides. Could escalate out of the blue. We've seen this before. So it's a good thing. Keep an eye on it, because if this will go to some actual war, we will see a huge effect on the stock markets. But it is some sort of calm right now. I'm in Lithuania, Vilnius, not so far from Ukraine at all. And there is no really big things, as I see. It's more rhetorical as is, but as can come out of the blue. Keep it on your radar. It's always a good thing. Taiwan conflict is still not there. There are some things brewing in Iran. We will see how that things pull out. But these are major lines, and these major lines will affect your trading. But we will stick to this week, not the longer weeks ahead, months ahead of us. We'll stick to this week. And as I said, there is fundamentally, as I see it, nothing really big that can change things. You should watch Netflix, because on Thursday Netflix will release the numbers. And at StockInvest.us we made a very nice tool for you. You can type in Netflix yourself. The ticker will be NFLX, or just type in Netflix, and you will see that we have posted a warning on the right side. It says earnings report in orange warning colors. 2 days left until Netflix earnings. If you click on the report, because we know when earnings come out, usually we see some movements in share price. And if you go to Netflix, for instance, we can see over the last 3 quarters, Netflix been falling on the day of earnings releases. Every single time for the 3 last quarters, it's been falling and then rising, meaning that maybe there is, if this trend continue like last time. I can just mention, for instance, Q3 2021. Netflix fell from around 640 down to 630 on the release day, just to jump up all the way from 630 to 670 the day after. If this pattern continue, it means that there should be some money to do in Netflix, meaning that you will just buy late at the day before earnings release and sit tight, and it should, consider previous behavior, be able to yield you some percentages. As I said, you can go check out this yourself. We have a very nice earnings report where you can read more about different numbers, how they stack up, and some simple charts just to show you how the price move before and after the earning release. Go to StockInvest.us, type in the ticker Netflix, and you will see for yourself. So Netflix is coming out with numbers along with several others, but Netflix might be, in my opinion, the most interesting of them all. Others are some banks, etc. So just a quick recap. As I said, there is no big major things as I see it that are stacking up this week for fundamental things. So what about the charts? And to do this, it's a really good exercise. You do not have to use our webpage, just get to a place where you get a good technical chart. Of course, I love our charts because they contain a lot of information, and this information will be able to help you in your trading. Type in ticker Exig or Nasdaq composite and get to the chart, and what you will see is that Nasdaq right now is very oversold on the relative strength index. Is down at 26, hasn't been this low for ages. Last time it was bumping somewhat down was in end of November, early December, and had a rebound up. Back then it was 33 and 35 on the relative strength index. And in my opinion, because I love relative strength index, I do a lot of nice trades on the relative strength index. I combine it with different other things. I think it is a very, very fair chance that Nasdaq will bounce up from these levels. Found a pivot bottom at 14,800, which also with support was mentioned last week. And should bounce up. Then it's the question, how far will it bounce up? We only have 4 trading days this week. And we have Nasdaq being oversold on the relative strength index. Volume is not really showing anything particular. There is huge resistance at 15,200, and that makes me believe that it will not be that insane positive week, but it's a fair chance that all week, overall, will be upwards. Could start very well, then go a triple sideways between 15,100 and 15,200. As I see it, 15,200 will be high of the week. If it breaks 15,200, it will go straight to 15,400. There is a chance for that. But I think we have to see some other things change before we can conclude. The chart says the following to me. We are heading upwards, but again, it will face that resistance from the middle of the charts. That's 15,400. And that can be where the index turn in the medium term, even in the long term, and just continue downwards. Because right now, from being in a very nice upturn trend, Nasdaq is now moving in a slightly downwards trend. It was topping at 16,000. Been bouncing down to 15,000, back almost to 16,000 again, then down to 15,000, back up almost to 16,000, but last week it broke below 15,000 and it is trending downwards. So from a chart point of view, there is a fair chance that we will have a slight upturn. I don't expect a very special week. As I said, there is no fundamental things. It should be, in my opinion, a slow week. But being oversold means that a lot of tickers are oversold, and there should be plenty of very nice buying opportunities. And very soon we will get to the trading tips. And last week I did that, exactly that, as I told you. Go into some of these stocks that have been hammered because they will do well, and they really did. Before we totally leave the markets and do a final conclusion, we just go through the StockInvest signals. We analyze more than 35,000 tickers, and based on this, we give buy and sell and hold signals, and we can tell something about the situation across the world. And right now it's 24% buy signals. It's been going slightly up. It was down in around Christmas time. It was very down, but slightly been moving upwards, and that is something we usually see in January. See it well in Norway right now, where a lot of stocks are picking quite well up. US been holding a little bit back. Nasdaq, for instance, has 18% buy signals, but up from last week. New York Stock Exchange very low at 17, and these numbers being low, meaning that we are getting into the oversold territory, could go two ways, because when things are oversold, it can go very fast downwards. You can get a very scary situation where things really drop, and that is why I focus a little bit on these fundamental things, because there is something that being a catalyzer pushes, markets can drop very fast, very hard. 3, 4, 5%. In these cases, when market already is scared, things can go very fast down. At the same time, it is usually a pickup time. We might be wrong in a week or two. Hard to say. But in my opinion, Nasdaq being at 18%, New York Stock Exchange being at 17%, we know that Nasdaq is oversold. We are heading for a green week, in my opinion. Slow, but green. If we go across to the other side of the world, we can say that Tokyo has 20% buy signals and Shenzhen, China has 33% buy signals. Shenzhen been very high, but has been falling lately. And we know they struggle with a few things in China now, debt being the major part of them. So wrap it up before we move on to the analysis and the trading tips. As I said, no big expectations for the week ahead of us. I don't see anything. Keep an eye on the Ukraine conflict, of course, but nothing really major. Everything is telling the tale of a green week ahead of us, and that might open up for some very good buying opportunities. Shortly, we will just run to a few companies and then you will have my trading tips for the week. That's coming up right now. We are heading into the very last part of this podcast where we will do some quick analysis of Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, Dogecoin, Bitcoin, and then you will have the trading tips. And I'm so happy that I'm finally back on track. I'm getting more spot on my analysis. Last week I told you I believe Microsoft would end the week at 310. And Microsoft ending the week at 320 cents. Well, I call that really spot on. Last week Apple was spot on. This week I was a little bit off. I said Apple would end the week at 170, ending at $173. And Tesla, well, Tesla, I said I believe Tesla would end at 950, push downwards. It was down at 980, I think, but ending the week at 1,049. But let's start with Apple. And you might not be an Apple trader, you might not even find Apple interesting, but you have to understand that Apple represent heavily on the indexes. So whatever happened to Apple reflects what will happen in the market. It's always hard to trade in a falling market. So if Apple, for some reason, shows very negatively sign, it will be, in my opinion, a hard trading week unless you are super pro and know how to avoid the general market and pick those stocks who go in the opposite direction. And looking at Apple, I told you last week it was a fair chance that things could go more sideways. Should fall, then move a little bit sideways because it would pick up from the bottom of the trend. And like Nasdaq, Apple is getting close to being oversold. It's not oversold yet, but getting close to being oversold. Is within a nice rising trend. The fall from 180 downwards to 170 is total natural reaction. The thing is that right now it's moving in the rectangle formation between 170 and $182. If this is broken down, meaning that Apple falls below 170, it should fall by technical rules very fast down, at least $10 down to 160. And if we check out the chart, you will see for yourself there is a lot of accumulated support at 160. You'll see that as gray bars in the chart. It's just how many people bought and sold shares at 160. Will give you an idea about support and resistance levels. And that is exactly the case, that if Apple continues upwards, it will face a lot of resistance around 175, just above where it is. Volume is moving, I would say somewhat okay. It's moving along with the share price. Sideways, there is nothing special. It's usually a good sign. And you should be more scared if the volume is moving in the opposite direction, because that indicates a forthcoming change. Has sell signals from the long-term moving average, but is getting a buy signals from the short-term moving average. And if it goes up again, it will release a buy signal also from the long-term moving average. There is still a buy signals from the relation between these two averages. And if it should break above 175, it will go straight up to 108, in my opinion, where it will face new resistance. In these cases where things move in what we call a rectangle formations, they usually move up and down. And you get a telltale by the volume. If it will break up, usually you see a sudden increase in volume, either when falling or breaking up. So that's the telltale. The volume is telltale. That goes for a lot of signals. If you are one of my regular followers, you'll hear me say that very often, that check out the volume. Volume will be the trigger for when to enter or exit the trade. And being a lot of resistance above, my expectations for the week for Apple is the following. In worst case, it will fall down to $165 and establish a trend change. Chances is not that big as I see it. I think it might be a bigger chance that it will move up, struggle a little bit with 175, then push upwards to 177, maybe 180 high, and fall down again. And that by the end of the week, it will end somewhere around 175. So I will actually upgrade the target for Apple this week. 275 was 170 last week. I'll upgrade it to 175. That being said, I think it's just a temporary movement upwards, and that in the following week we might see a huge fall in Apple. We will see how things stacks up during the week. Just let's go straight to Microsoft. Microsoft was spot on last week. I told you I thought it would fall to $310. It actually fell down to 304 very low, bounced up to 310, moving exactly as we could expect, being very oversold on the relative strength index at 20. Tells me buy Microsoft, because you should be able to do some quick bucks. Of course, it can be, as I said, when things are oversold, it can get pretty ugly much faster. The chance is there. But this is stock trading. You have to take a chance. Very interesting, Microsoft. You see this for yourself. You go to our webpage, check the chart. You see that it had two tops around 343, giving a double top with a huge sell signal. And it followed up. So these things actually work very well. I know I've been doing technical trading for getting close to 30 years now. Has a sell signals from the relation between the two moving averages, has a sell signal for both the short and the long term, but if it breaks up above 314, it will give a buy signals from the short term moving average. Relative strength, as I said, is 20, super oversold. I see a huge possibility to do a trade between 310 and 323. That gives you $13. Should be anywhere, in my opinion, between, let's say, 3 to 5% for easy grabbing. It might be that you are a small investor, you don't have that, but remember there is something called put and calls where you can do some leverage on your trading. It's very, very interesting. Some resistance around 314. If it breaks above 314, it will go straight to 323 in my opinion, and 323 just means 325 high. So that will be an obvious buy in my opinion. There should be room to make some money. If things goes what we call south, go the other way, well, 305 is the level that you have to watch out for, because under 305 it will fall straight to 300 and can even fall down to 280 because of lack of support. My judgment for the week is the following. We will have an upturn. I will not be surprised if Microsoft pushes all the way up to 325 in a nice rush, then continues downwards. My end target for the week is up in the beginning of the week, down in the end of the week, ending at 315. So it will up the target for Microsoft from 310 last week to 315. And just as I said in Apple, I think this is just natural reaction up. The following weeks might be much, much tougher. But again, a trading opportunity, it just says the same thing that the nasdaq chart said. Last ticker before we do the Bitcoin and the Dogecoin is, of course, Tesla. And Tesla is that very wild ticker. And again, if you've been following me for a long time, you know how I traded Tesla, buying at 560, getting out at 1200, saying that I will get the stock should fall from 1200 to 880, and I might consider to get in. I was spot on. It fell down to 899 in end of day, somewhere in the middle of December. It was actually lower than that intraday. Then had, as I said, a natural push upwards to 1200. I mentioned the number 1200 exactly, and the end of day was 1199.78. I also told you that it will push down. That's my opinion. And I think exactly that is what will happen. Right now, it finds a lot of support at 1,000. Moving up, and it may well again push upwards to 1,100, could be 1,150 high. But as I see it, it's just temporary. But if you're a Tesla investor, you should not be that worried right now because it is moving up. For those who use technical trading as a tool, you can also see the head and shoulder formation coming. It needs to break down for it to be confirmed. And that will give a neckline, let's say around 1,030, and the top around 1,200. That will give $170 downside by the technical term. And from 1,030, that will bring us well below 900. And I think that is, again, what will happen. First, it could push a little bit up and then continue down. It might be that this week will just be somewhat uneven up and a little bit down, and by the end of the week, somewhere close to where it is right now. I am not sure if I should follow technical trading, my guts, or where I should put my bet. And the chart says the same thing. It's moving sideways. It's only keeping up on that high support just above $1,000. It's a very, very strong support. If it breaks down, it will for sure fall hard. And I will take the chance this week because I said last week it will fall down to 950. I will keep my target also for this week that we will see Tesla fall down. Could go up to 1100 this week, but then should continue to push downwards. And if you wonder, will I ever get back to Tesla again? Yes, when Tesla get back to the levels where I think there will be a huge buying opportunity, I will get in. As waiting for that, there is always these natural swing trades that can be done. Bitcoin. What about Bitcoin? Bitcoin been having a hard time. Fell from 40,000 to 45,000 to 40, just as I said, with no support. It could fall very hard, and there is really nothing indicating that Bitcoin should push up. Right now, it's in a very strong falling trend. It has sell signals from long-term moving average, buy signals from the short-term moving average. The relation between these two averages is still a sell, and I even saw, don't remember who also said that now there is a dead cross in Bitcoin. And usually when the big players say sell, to me that is a buying opportunity. And Bitcoin was oversold at 40,000, and as I said, I think 40,000 might be the very, very low. Now it needs to follow up on volume, but when and if it pushes up, it will face tons of resistance from 47 to 50,000, so it will not be a quick ride. But anything tells me that this is a bottom coming. I see some very huge volume changes. On January 7th, there was a huge change in volume as Bitcoin fell down to 17 on the relative strength index at 41,557. I see that as a sell-off, and I see a huge possibility that this marks the bottom for even as long as the next 6 weeks. I will actually put a bet on it because I think right now it's a good buying opportunity in Bitcoin, and that we will see Bitcoin get back to the 60,000, 70,000 level And now is a huge possibility that it will come faster than before. Last week I had a target of $47,000, but it's right now 43, so it was off. I will keep my 47,000 target for the week ahead of us. And as I said, I think Bitcoin just bottomed up. And then there is Dogecoin before we get to the trading tips. And Dogecoin had an interesting week last week, where it pushed up on some Tesla rumors, pushed up to the 20s high, is currently trading around 18 cents. It's the same thing, somewhat the same thing like Bitcoin had little volume change. Not that much, it is in a strong falling trend. And usually it will just continue within the trend. Being in the top of the trend means that it will fall down to the bottom of the trend. And it might very well happen. I think that we will see Dogecoin maybe down to 16, 15 cents and then bounce up. And we need to see the volume before it really pushes up. I have my bets at 20. I thought it would turn at 20, so I placed my bet at 20 after being in and out of Dogecoin. With good profit, I put my last trade on 20 so far. It's been off. And you might ask, why haven't I bought more when it was down at 14, 15? Well, I don't gamble that way. I don't increase the risk unless I see very, very strong reasons why, for instance, had a huge volume change or something indicating that there is a forthcoming change with huge possibility. So I don't double up. It's a stupid strategy many times. You have to be very certain why you would buy more shares. I actually do that in some cases, but then I have a very specific reason why, and usually it's a technical one or a very strong fundamental reason why I buy. Might be that the stock is way oversold, also on fundamental things like PE, etc. For Dogecoin for the week ahead of us, I think that it will continue upwards, but it might not break 20 cents this week. Might just end somewhere around 20, so I'll have to lower my target, and it's been 22 for weeks after weeks, and I will say that by the end of the week it will end at 20 and remain in general positive. It's just about the timing. And that finally brings us to the trading tips. I know a lot of you are waiting for these. Before I tell you what is this week's trading tips, we will go through the trading tips. And last week I opened several new tips because I said it was such a good opportunity. I just had to do it. And what did I do? I told you, well, I will do a second trade in Zoom. As you know, the week before, in week 1, I did a Zoom trade. I said there was a huge chance for a 10% profit. It actually gave me 15.6% profit. And last week I said, well, I'll try Zoom again because, in my opinion, it is the opportunity. I was able to get in at 31.7 cents. It was not the lowest of the day, but I was very happy. And then it took off on Wednesday, went all the way up to 36.9 high. I had a 5% stop loss, very wide stop loss indeed, but that's because Zoom usually swings a lot. And then it started to fall. It was cut by stop loss at 35.5 cents. And again, some might ask, well, why didn't you sell at 36.9? Because it could go straight to 40. You have no idea. You have to be psychic to know exactly where it will top up. Of course, you can try to estimate using accumulated volume, support the resistance levels. I often do this. But in general, what I do is I buy a stock as low as I can. When it starts to go up, I put on a trailing stop loss. And as if it got very fast up, I tightened the stop loss. In this case, I had a 5% stop loss on Zoom. Fell from 36.9 down to 35.5, was sold, giving me 12% profit. So I didn't have to even to think about it. I just saw that Zoom was sold. The money was in the bank. I also bought NEO. I got in at 28.47. It was sold. It was traded around 27 something, so I was not able to get into the very bottom at NEO either. And the same thing happened. NEO started to go up and went very well. I put on a stop loss, had a tighter stop loss on NEO than Zoom, had a 3% stop loss on NEO. It went up, I think it was on 32, not sure, 31, close to 32, and then started to drop and was cut by stop loss at 13.90, giving me 8.6% profit. And I said Dole, vegetables company, was a buying opportunity which I really liked. And I got in at 12.75. I still have the trade. It just started to slowly go upwards. It was ending Friday at 13.43. So far up 5.33%. So Doyle is still in. Before that, if you follow me, you know that I also had Beyond open. I bought Beyond at 4.58, saying it was a good buying opportunity. It went up, then went a little down. I was actually cut by stop loss and was the only loss I had to take last week. It was sold at 4.45 or minus 2.84%. And this is a quick recap for new losers. As I said in the very intro, what we want to do is help you to cut your losses, increase your gains. And that's exactly where stop loss come in. Because for you, it will be very hard to sell a stock. Has to do with the human mentality, etc. Very few people manage to be this disciplined to sell because hope is the strongest of all of our emotions, and that usually causes you to sit in too long and take too big losses. And on the other hand, when things go up, you get too greedy, you are not able to sell at the top, etc. So use trailing stop loss. That gives us a loss in Beyond at 284, which is totally fine. As I just said, I made 12% on Zoom. I made 8.6 on NEO. I have 5.33 on Dole. And all the other trades, they are just green all over the chart. And there is BABA, which I bought in week 50, kept it open. As you know, I bought it at 120.30. Even that was sold by stop loss on Wednesday because Wednesday everything went sky high and then fell. So BABA went up to, I think it was 136, 137 and then started to fall. Maybe it was even 138 as well. Started to fall and was cut by stop loss at 134.53. So the week 50 trade gave me 11.83% profit. So a huge profit also in BABA. And that leaves us only with Exigam and Dole open. Exigam is still in, it's on heavy losses. It's the one trading tips I said where I will not put the trading and it will be a crazy trading tips. Very hard one because Exigam is such volatile. And so far it's been a huge loss. But I think soon we will also get back into it. And having it open just means that I think Exigam is still a good buy, right? On Friday you could buy Exigam at 4.25. I think it is a very, very good opportunity. I got in way higher than that and just waiting to cut some of my losses. But I think Exigam is a good. Otherwise, I'll just close it. Dole still is open. It's 13.43 now. I still think it's a buying opportunity at these levels. Of course, a little bit less than when I bought. So what are the new two tips? What are the new two trading tips? Well, there is one, which I already mentioned very early in this podcast. If you listen, I said I think there is a trading opportunity in Netflix. It's oversold right now. You can go and check the chart for yourself. As I said, when it releases Q data, it usually goes up after the Q data. I will not wait until release day. I will actually get in tomorrow morning as early as I can. See if I can get a good entry price. So Netflix is one of the stocks that I will buy this week with anticipation. You can check for yourself. Go to our page. Check out the chart. It's NFLX, Netflix. And you will see what I mean. I think there is room for an upswing. It's very oversold. We'll face some resistance at 540. But there is a huge chance that we can see on a very hard day Netflix go all the way up to 590. That is more than 10%. It's 12, 13, 14%. I'm aiming for anything around 5 to 8. Not trying to be too greedy, but I think it's a huge, good chance right now. And as I said, when what you want to see is volume go in the opposite direction. As in this case, Netflix been falling with huge volume increase in in the end of last week, and that is exactly what we want to see. We want to see a sell-off, and I think it's a sell-off. It's super low on the relative strength index, only 9 at the relative strength index. Found a pivot bottom at 519, and my bet will be that Netflix will go up this week. So I'll put the bet, see if I'm able to do a green this week in Netflix. The other one is a much tougher one, and was pointed out to me by one Reddit user. He asked about Sundal. I had a look at Sundal, and I think this can be a wild card. Also very, very oversold on the relative strength index. It will be a tougher trade, higher volatility. This is one of the things that move very fast, so it's a little bit harder. But I think there can be a chance in Sundal. Between Netflix and Sundal, I prefer Netflix in terms of the technical picture. Sundal is much more speculative. I take my bet on being oversold on the relative strength index, that the markets will be good, and being a penny stock, it can pick up. Tougher trade, I have to be a little bit more careful, because here is where you can lose some money fast and you can gain them fast. I have a good feeling that we might see some good greens in Sundal. So that will be the 2 trading tips of the week. Sundal and Netflix are the new 2 stocks I will go into. I keep Doyle open, I keep Exigam open, and in all, I will be into 4 trades. I will of course do several other trades as I see them move during the weeks. I love picking this. As I said last week, this is the kind of market where I do my very, very best when things are somewhat volatile, even slightly negative. But for the week as such, I think it might be a green week for the markets, shortened starting tomorrow for the US. That was the end of this podcast. I will be back next week, and again I will try to change the format to make it a little bit more interesting for you. And somewhere up ahead, we also plan to make this in full video version, where you can see the chart and see everything I see at the same time. We will prepare for it, and we'll hopefully get there very soon. We are coming up on the 100 podcast in just a few weeks. It might be the day where we'll try a full video of the podcast. And the podcast, if you're listening at Spotify or wherever you're listening, Anchor, Spotify, it's also available on our YouTube channel. At the YouTube channel, we have added some more information. So along with the podcast, you will see different information in the YouTube video. It's snowing here in Vilnius. I don't know what's the weather where you are. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you will have a green week. I hope you will have many good trades during the week, and that you will be back with me next week as we get into week 4. Until then, bye.